So I'm a used car dealer, and what we're seeing right now in the car market is very, very alarming. We're seeing cars sit on dealers' lots for a very, very long time. We're seeing that credit has gotten tighter. A lot of dealers are having struggles getting people into car loans. Car prices, they're way too high, and this is a big problem for the car market going forward because monthly payments are out of control and people just can't afford them. So what does that lead to in the car market? Well, it leads to cars sitting on lots for a very, very long time. And the big problem for cars sitting on lots for a very long time not being driven is lot rot. All right, so what is lot rot? Well, it's just like this right here. So all of these cars that are sitting around me, not only just used cars, but if you go to new car dealerships, these cars, they're designed to be driven. They're designed to have fluids moving through their systems. It is the worst thing in the world to have these cars sitting there and not have gasoline going through the system, to not have these fluids cleaning out their systems. And the only way that you can really do that is by driving these cars. So what happens when they sit here for a very long time? Problems can develop. Even on brand new cars, lot rot can set in, and we're seeing that in the car market right now. So you as a consumer, should you be worried about lot rot? Well, if you're going to look at these cars and they've been sitting for some of these cars over a year on these lot without being moved around quite a bit, yeah, it can be concerning. You can have tires that can have flat spots. You can have batteries that are dying. You can have converters that are clogged up. A lot of these things that I see happen on my lot, and we turn cars pretty quickly. So you can imagine what these dealers are dealing with that have cars that are celebrating 1 or 2 birthdays on their lot. Yes, there are dealers out there that have new vehicles that have been sitting on car lots for over 2 years. So not too long ago, I was actually at a Ford dealership, and some of the salespeople were moving some of the their new F-150s. I say new, but they were over a year old. But they were having to move them around their lot, and there were quite a few of them that their batteries were dead. So they were they hadn't moved them often enough to keep the batteries actually charged, so they're not going on test drives, things like that. People, the demand for these things has fallen so much, and the inventory levels are so high that when a customer goes in there, I mean, they're looking at rows and rows and rows of truck, and a lot of them, they're just not getting driven. So here at my car, I deal with this all the time, and we deal in used cars. Cars that I sell are $5,000 and under, and we have to jump and replace batteries all the time. We use something like this right here. All it is like a little mobile jump box. We just put black on black, red on red, and we're able to jump them off. But it should not be the case that a new dealership should have to deal with this kind of lot rot, because they should be moving inventory on their brand new batteries enough that it should stay charged. So it's very funny to see that these brand new F-150s. Now, before you want to go on a test drive, yeah, we gotta jump them off. Yeah, this old Hyundai Sonata, this 2011 Hyundai Sonata, I can understand that one needed to be jumped off or the battery needed to be replaced, but maybe not on a brand new F-150. And here's another thing, tires. So even at these new car dealerships, if cars aren't moved a whole lot, then they can develop flat spots. Even tires that are brand new, that are sitting around for a long time, they can lose air. So this is another issue with lot rot, especially on cars that are sitting there for a long time. Now, used car dealer, I get bad tires in all the time. We're gonna have to replace this one. So what do we deal with all the time? Well, we have to keep tires inflated. A big time pain for us because it's something that we deal with daily. And what we've had to do in the past is actually lug around this big thing all around the lot. It's very heavy, very complicated to have to move it around. It's really just a time waster. So it's very important for us to have something that's very portable to be able to actually pump our tires, something that my team can run around with. All my portable tire inflators, they've stolen from me because obviously it's easier to use these things than it is to lug around that big compressor. All right, so check this out. We just plug it in, and then we can just set exactly what we want our tire pressure to be. On this one, I'm going to do 34 psi, and then all we got to do, hit start. So this thing right here will pump up not only just the small SUV tires, but big heavy duty work truck tires. It'll do bicycles. This thing does everything. The Eaton Wolf inflator is even faster than the DeWalt 20 volt max. It'll inflate a tire in just 1 minute. All right, so check out the code and the link down in the description below. You actually get $60 off with it. Pick one of these things up. It's great to have in your emergency kit, or especially if you're a used car dealer or if you just have a car in general. And probably one of the biggest things the biggest headache at least I have to deal with on an ongoing basis is, let me move this camera up, is dealing with converters that get clogged up. So what will happen is, and this is more on the used car side than it is on the new, but what will happen is there'll be uncombusted fuel that will sit in your converter, and it needs to get heated up to get blown out of the back of the car. So what typically happens if cars sit for a long time, that fuel sits in there and gunks up the converter. They get clogged, a lot of carbon gets built up, and what we use to really deal with that is something called seafoam, and it basically is a fuel treatment to help move things through the system again, to help clean them out. But it's something with cars that I deal with, we actually deal with quite a bit, because you got to think about the way that we buy our cars. So they're mostly trade-ins. That come from new car dealers. So what will happen is that car will get traded in at a new franchise store. It'll sit on their lot for a while, not being driven. They'll get that thing transported to the auction, where it'll sit at the auction for about a week before it runs, still also not being driven. And then it'll come to our lot, and sometimes it'll take us a few days to get to it, not being driven. So between the time that the car is traded in to the time that I'm actually getting a hold of it and we start our recon stuff and start to get it ready, drive it and make sure it's good or whatever, it could be a month. So these older cars that I buy with the higher mileage, it's the worst thing for them to just be sitting there for a month and not being driven. And a lot of times we have to replace some converters if we can't just get them cleaned out. So it's a big headache. Probably our biggest thing and our biggest cost that we have to deal with concerning lot rot for us having to deal with cars that have been sitting for a long time. Another thing that happens just because cars have to be out in the elements is that they just get dirty when they've been sitting around. Now, these cars that I have out here that we're waiting on to get cleaned up, it's not a big deal. But if you think about these new car dealers that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars sitting out on their lot, and they have to be clean. Well, if you go through a season like spring or even during the summer around here, when you can have a lot of pollen that's going through the air. If it's a black truck, man, you get that thing cleaned up 2 days later, it turns green just because of that. So this is an added expense that these dealers are going to have to pay for. If they're not rolling cars, then they're going to have to get them cleaned every week. And the more cars they have, the more money it's going to take for them to get them cleaned up. And that's just added expense. And they're not able to charge more the more money that they put into these cars. And especially now in this market right now, they're having to take money off to actually get cars moved. So their expenses are going up and their profits, the amount that they can sell these vehicles for, is going down. Yeah, I don't even really want to talk about this form of lot rot. I don't know if it's even considered a form of lot rot, but the longer you have cars on your lot, the more that you have to move them around or whatever. If your employees have to go get gas put in cars, then accidents can happen. Let me know if you need parts from a caravan, because I got one. So now probably the biggest cost that's associated with cars sitting on dealer lots is not even really a physical thing at all. It's floor plan cost. And I throw this into the bag of kind of lot rot, because the longer that these cars sit on dealers' lots, the more it rots away at their bank account. So most dealers, they don't pay cash for their cars. What they do is they basically do the same thing as swiping a credit card for all their inventory, and that credit card accrues interest. This is called a floor plan, and this is how most car dealers operate, especially if you're looking at like franchise dealers. These new dealers, they don't buy their cars outright, they finance them. So the more that these cars sit on their lot, the higher days of inventory they have, the more vehicles that they have sitting there where customers just won't take them off their hands, the more interest that they're having to pay every single month. Now, a lot of these manufacturers, they give floor plan assistance, so they'll actually give a lot of these dealers money to help with the costs that they're going to have to pay to floor their vehicles. Now, in we'll say 2 years ago, this was actually a profit center for a lot of these dealers because they were getting these kickbacks from the manufacturer and they were selling the cars before they would even have to pay interest on them. But now is not the scenario. You can go to any Ford dealer, you can go to any Dodge Ram dealer. You've seen the inventory, you've seen it on our videos. There are trucks just sitting absolutely everywhere. So what was this profit center for a lot of these franchise dealers not too long ago has now been a big burden. I'm seeing reports of some of these dealers paying hundreds of thousands of dollars each and every month just to their floor plan, just to the interest that they have to. I mean, think about how many vehicles some of these dealers have. They have tens of millions of dollars worth of inventory sitting on their lot. And all that inventory sitting on their lot, interest racks up. So they have to pay that each and every month. And it is it's the biggest form of lot rots that is going to really hit their bottom line, and it's probably the one that they wish that they didn't have to deal with the most. They can deal with a flat tire, they can deal with a dead battery, but that interest is a lot of money.